I have an issue with something that's going on right now, and it's a Jamie Carragher quote that has Real Madrid fans very hyped up in a frenzy. After Madrid beat Man City on penalties in the Champions League quarterfinals, Carragher was quoted somewhat out of context, but the point stands. The team that wins the Champions League is not necessarily the best team in Europe. And this has angered many people in this great place we call the Twitter replies. Don't take someone's opinion seriously. More own goals than career goals, whatever. Leverkusen's the best team in Europe. They play in the Europa League. The switch up is crazy. Oh my gosh. Like, why is this a controversial opinion? I think the whole point of it is that the best team in Europe wins. This isn't true at all. Why is this a controversial opinion? I thought this was like well known. It's a tournament. In a tournament, there's more randomness and good luck and bad luck that happens in it. That's kind of the whole point of it. Otherwise, you're just left with a Super League, which we all clearly do not want the European Super League. So why are we upset about this quote? Even Jamie Carragher, who he himself won a Champions League with Liverpool, has said and been quoted that he thought the AC Milan team that he defeated with Liverpool in 2005 were the much better team. He admitted that his team were not the better side on the night of their remarkable Champions League success against Milan. I mean, this is not something that needs to be debated, I feel like. Tournaments, weird things happen. There's more variance in tournaments because there's less of a sample size for the better teams to play better and the worst teams to concede more goals, pretty much. Like, I don't think that's a controversial opinion. Why do you think college basketball's March Madness is so crazy all the time? It's because it's one game elimination. Look at the list of Champions League finals recently. Man City beating Inter Milan. They're the best team. They were the best team in the world last year. They won a treble. Whatever. That's fine. Let's look back just 2 years. Chelsea? You think Chelsea were the best team in Europe over Manchester City? Did Chelsea, what place did Chelsea even finish in the 2021 English campaign? I do not know. What about 18-19? Tottenham? My Tottenham Hotspurs? Were they the second best team in Europe in 2018-19? We weren't even close. We had a terrible season that year overall. Like, what are you talking about? That's a joke. What about 2011-12? Is Chelsea really better than Bayern Munich in that year when Bayern walked the Bundesliga and Chelsea finished 5th in the English league? Like, why? This is not something that needs to be debated. This isn't something that needs to get brought up. Real Madrid played very defensively against Manchester City. It was their game plan to let Man City have all the attacks pretty much and to hit them on the counterattack. And fair play to them, it worked. But, I mean, come on now. What are we doing here? This is not an argument. Like, this should not even be a debate, but it is because we live in this world where, anyone can say anything they want on Twitter. And it just doesn't make sense to me because it's very obvious that the point of a tournament structure is to create chaos. We don't play the games on paper. We have to go out there and play the 90 minutes, and then the winner is the winner. Doesn't matter what team's better, doesn't matter the stats. All that matters is if you have more goals than the other team. So I don't understand where this notion that if you win the Champions League, you are automatically the best team in Europe. What if you don't win your domestic league? I mean, Real Madrid, Champions League 1, 2, 3 times in a row between 15 and 18. How many times did they win La Liga in that 3-year time period? They didn't win La Liga every single year that they won the Champions League. Far from it. So what? They're the best team in Europe, but not the best team in their own country? That doesn't make sense to me. It's a really stupid argument that has no hold once you literally just say like, oh, it's a tournament. Weird things happen in a tournament. There's more variance in a tournament because that's the whole point of it, is who shows up on that day. What bad or good luck are you going to have? Can you overcome that luck? Yes or no? It certainly has no bearing on a team's quality overall. It's the same reason where it's like Messi is not the GOAT because he finally won a World Cup. Messi is the GOAT because he's Lionel Messi. Winning or losing a World Cup is certainly not a deal breaker. You could say winning it adds on to it, but losing a World Cup, making a World Cup final and losing, not ever making a World Cup final, someone like Neymar, You think Neymar's not one of the greatest Brazilian players of this generation? That's silly, just because he hasn't made it far enough in a World Cup. I think that's ridiculous. It's one tournament where, sure, the group stage is okay. The cream rises to the top in a group stage normally, I would say, because there's enough matches played where the best teams normally make it through, and there's enough variance where sometimes that doesn't happen. But once the knockout happens, it's two legs. It's just 2 games. That's it. There's not enough. There's not a big enough sample size for the natural kind of occurrence where the better team will come out on top every time. That's not the structure, and that's fine. Again, I have no issue with the Champions League, but we need to keep in mind that just because you are the champions of Europe, you are just simply not the best team in Europe. Like, that's just not how it goes. It's a tournament. There's too much variance. These weird things happen. Teams that win the Champions League don't even win their domestic league, don't even come close to winning their domestic league. It might be the only trophy they win that season. I mean, does that make them the best team in Europe? Or does that mean they got lucky, they had good tactics, good manager? I mean, these things just happen. That's why we play the sport. That's why the tournament exists, is to entertain and for, bring all these clubs all across Europe together. But for anyone to certainly say that, well, the best team in Europe is the team that wins the Champions League, I mean, that's a hilarious answer. I don't think that makes any sense at all. It's the same thing where in a World Cup where it's like, does the best team in the world always win the World Cup? I certainly don't think so. I mean, Greece won the Euros, almost 20 years ago. Was Greece the best team in Europe when they won the Euros? Absolutely not. But that's the whole point of the tournament format. It ups the stakes of all these matches, and the variance plays a huge part in it. And overcoming the variance and the good luck and the bad luck of a tournament is one of the major points of a tournament structure, of playoffs, especially here in America with NBA and NFL. The New England Patriots went undefeated in the NFL however many years ago, and they lost 1 game, and that was the Super Bowl. Does that mean they weren't the best team in the league that year? Of course not. They were the best team, but they lost 1 game. But it was the one that handed them the trophy, so they didn't win the trophy. They didn't win the Lombardi. That's just the way it is. It's a silly, stupid debate. I really don't know why this was a talking point for many days where people had to weigh in. It's stupid, it's silly, and now look at me. I'm weighing in, so maybe I'm part of the problem too. I just had to get that off my chest. Had to make this quick video where just remember, if you win the Champions League, celebrate that. It's a huge European trophy. You won the tournament. You won Europe's tournament. That's big. But remember, it doesn't mean you're the best team in Europe. It just means you were the best team in that tournament.